Discover the shocking truth behind communication. Are people disrespecting you without you even realizing it? So many clients come to me with a lack of self-worth and self-value. And actually, when we get into it, it turns out that there are some pretty toxic things happening in their communication. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 ways people might be disrespecting you and you might not be realizing, and also ways to challenge that, to take your power back. From dismissive body language to dismissive remarks, let's shine a light on the areas where people are undermining your value as a human being. You deserve to be treated with respect, and other people in your life deserve to be treated with respect by you. Maybe as we go through this, you'll realize that some of these things are things that you do on autopilot without realizing it. And this might be a fantastic way for you to grow in your own personal development journey. Let's unpack the psychology behind these behaviors and have a little look at the things that in 2024 are pretty normal, but are also pretty destructive for the way we feel about ourselves. Okay, number 1, and this is massive for me, this deserves its whole own video. People swiping, scrolling, texting on their phone while they're talking to you. Stop it. Call it out. It's so toxic. It is the worst trait we have as a society in 2024, and it really upsets me. I call this out myself all the time. I had an experience yesterday where I was at an open mic night, there was live music, we're having a lovely time. A friend of mine came to see me and see the music and sat on his massive, giant, lit up screen with the lights shining in my face and there's music happening and just swiping and swiping, kind of still talking to me at the same time. Not okay. Like, if you want to be on your phone or you need to be on your phone, that by itself is not a problem. But bringing that into a social situation that has become so normalized now is just toxic. What it says when someone is scrolling on their phone while they're talking to you, and maybe they're making eye contact with you, they're engaging, really, okay, still not okay. If they held value in what you were saying, they would put their phone away. If they held value in the social situation that was happening, they would put their phone away. Now, there are so many reasons people use their phones now. Clearly, there are legitimate reasons. Someone might need to check on the kids. Someone might be in the middle of a conversation with somebody on their phone that is really important. That isn't an issue. So someone needing to use their phone, that's not the issue. The toxic thing is when somebody is using it whilst they're engaging with you, and especially the people that come out, they come around your house, they come for dinner, they come for a night out, and they spend the entire night on their phone. Why are you there? Just go sit at home and be on your phone. Like, that isn't human connection. I will always call that out. I don't like it. It makes me feel very uncomfortable. There are other reasons people do this with their phone. Many people in 2024 use their phones as an anxiety blanket. So in a social situation, maybe there's a pause in the conversation, or maybe a conversation has ended. People will immediately go to their phone because it's easy. It's an easy way to not have to deal with social awkwardness. And I understand that, and I have sympathy for that. But most of the time, when people are using their phones like that, actually, if they sought a better connection with you in the moment, they wouldn't need their phone to make them feel better. So I feel very strongly about this, and I challenge this with different people all of the time. And I feel like we're adding value to another human being by letting them know, hey, you're on your phone a lot. You're sacrificing 100% human connection because you're on your phone. Because a lot of people will do this on autopilot now. Number 2, people interrupting you during conversations. This is rude. Call it out. Don't stand for it. If someone interrupts me during a conversation, I will think about the reasons for that in that moment, because sometimes, again, there is a legitimate reason. Maybe somebody is super excited by what you said. Maybe they have something really passionate that they want to add. Maybe they're just really caught up in the moment. but it's still kind of rude. And if someone's doing that all the time, they're definitely not valuing what you have to say. I would say you are doing the world a service by gently but firmly asserting your boundaries and saying, I appreciate your point, but I'd really like to finish my point first. Toxic communication trait number 3, people who make condescending remarks or belittling remarks or backhanded compliments. Not okay. Call this out. So I'm talking about things like when people say, wow, you're doing so well for someone who doesn't have a 9 to 5 job. I get that very often. Or, oh, bless your heart, you tried the best. Or if somebody says something like, oh, that's a cute idea, let me explain myself in simpler terms. That's rude. That is condescending. That is patronizing. Call it out. If you're in a situation with somebody who talks to you that way or makes these backhanded compliments all the time, I mean, you really have two choices. One, stop having communication with that person, which would be my number one choice. Or you call them out and you say things like, let's communicate with mutual respect. And then if that doesn't happen, you back to number one and you get rid of them. Number 4, people who disregard your ideas all the time or at all, actually. That's just rude. It means that person does not value the things that you have to say. Call it out. If someone's dismissing your opinion, that suggests that they don't have respect for what you're saying or who you are as a human being. That is going to erode your self-worth. There are ways to deal with this, and a heart open way to deal with this would be to come at it from a vulnerable perspective and say something like, I feel like my opinions are not being heard, or I feel disrespected by the fact that my ideas are not being given the correct amount of attention. Because what you're doing is you're taking the focus away from their bad behavior and you're telling them with vulnerability, this is how I feel, this is the impact it's having on me, then gives them a chance to adjust their behavior and make you feel more valued by communicating in a healthier way. Number 5, people who talk over you or dominate conversations all the time. This is rude. This is toxic. Challenge it. Call it out. There's lots of situations this might happen in. It might happen in a social situation, and that's has layers of complexity to it because it may be a friend of a friend. It may be someone who is an acquaintance as opposed to a friend who just has this overbearing character. And again, you have choices. You always have choices in these situations. And choice number 1 is remove yourself from that person's space energy. I do this very, very often. This is my go-to in a situation where somebody is constantly dominating a conversation. I just remove myself. I'm not interested because to me, that tells me that that person has no interest in my life, my experiences, my values, my emotions. And I want there to be a mutual respect if I'm going to have a connection with someone. So if I'm going to give my energy to someone or let them take my energy, then there needs to be an understanding that we're on a level together. And that doesn't mean that any one person has control of the conversation. It ebbs and flows. People ebb and flow. Sometimes I have more to say and I need you to listen more. Sometimes I have less to say and actually I really want to listen to what you're saying. So if it's a subtle situation where it's between friends and it's a one-off thing, maybe that person just has a lot on their mind and they really need to speak about it. In that situation, heart open, be there for them, hold space for them, and allow them. But if it becomes a constant or consistent behavior, you have to call it out. And you are calling it out for their greater good and yours if this is a situation you don't want to walk away from. And you will actually strengthen the bond and the connection between you by having the conversation of, hey, I've noticed that you are always talking about yourself, or you know what, actually today I don't want to listen to you talking about this subject for 17 hours. I actually have some things that I want to talk about. Being able to assert yourself and have confidence to do that will build your self-esteem and your value. And this is a really important thing to do for humanity, let alone just for yourself. Addressing these disrespectful behaviors does require confidence and it does require assertiveness. And I understand that if you're in a situation where these things are happening, drip feeding toxicity into your life all the time, you probably don't feel very assertive. Maybe you don't feel very confident. But it's a catch-22 situation, because if you allow these behaviors to continue, you're not going to build confidence and you're not going to build self-esteem or value. So you kind of have to fake it until you make it in this situation. You have to recognize these things are happening, and then you have to call them out in whatever way feels appropriate to you. And maybe you need to do that in a softer way at first until you find your feet with this. But you will find that your confidence will start to grow as you start to challenge these things, or as you start to realize these things are happening and trim down your social environment. So the 5 situations you want to be looking out for: people who are constantly on their phone while they're talking to you, unacceptable, don't allow it. People who interrupt you during conversations. People who make condescending remarks or backhanded compliments, not okay. You want that out of your life. You need that behavior to change. Call it out. People who are constantly disregarding your ideas, you have a choice here. I would say call it out always, or walk away from the situation, because that's a place where you're not valued. People who constantly talk over you or dominate conversations, that isn't something you need in your life. So that's an energy you either have to confront with an intention to finding a different connection between the two of you, or you need to just walk away from it. Walking away from an unhealthy social situation or unhealthy communication isn't a failure. That is a valid choice. I am diligent with the people that I give energy to, with the people that I have in my environment, with the people that I give my love to and my heart and my communication and my connection. When I start to feel like a certain communication or interaction with somebody is draining me or not valuing me, I'm already halfway out the door before I've even thought about challenging it. But I will also challenge these things. Usually, I have kind of an MO in a situation and I will challenge it almost every time. And I will either challenge it and then cut that person out, or I will challenge it, give them an opportunity to grow, understand, do better, and carry on. And often, you challenging something, you calling something out, often the knee-jerk reaction from the other person is not going to be bubbles and rainbows, because you're challenging somebody's sense of self, and you might be bringing something into someone's awareness that they haven't ever even thought about. And sometimes there's a process, there's an emotional thought process that needs to happen for change to take place. But you may well be laying the foundation for an incredible change in that person. I am currently posting 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, every day. I'm posting personal development, coaching, growth, personal insights. So if this is something that is interesting to you, share the channel, like, comment, subscribe. These things really help me to continue putting out content. I would love to know if you have listened to any of this and realized it's happening in your social situation, or maybe if you have different toxic traits of communication that come to mind, or maybe you have a different way of dealing with it. Let me know what it is. I love talking about this stuff. So comment and let's talk about it. I appreciate your time. Have the best day ever.